So today we are going to be learning about the poem I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It is written by Maya Angelou. Throughout the course of the poem, we see that a comparison has been made between a free bird and a caged bird. So starting with the first stanza, a free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to clean the sky. So a free bird leaps on the back of the wind, meaning that it has started its flight. It has taken its flight. It has started flying. It has spread its wings and it has started flying on the back of the wind. Like we say that we ride on the back of horses, we ride on the back of camels. So here it is referred to the movement of the bird. So the free bird leaps on the back of the wind, meaning that it is flying through the wind and floats downstream, meaning that it is going along with the wind current till the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun rays. Here it is meant to show that the bird is flying in the evening. So it is said that he dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky, meaning that the free bird flies as if the whole sky belongs to him. Then we are being shown the living conditions of a caged bird. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of reed. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird can only move around his cage. I mean that he can only move within his cage. That is all the space that he has for freedom. The only bit of freedom he has is within his cage, which is not freedom at all, but that is all the caged bird has. He can seldom see through his bars of rays, meaning that he can hardly see through his cage. The bird that was roaming in the sky, that is a free bird, it was flying high, so he could see for miles and miles of distance. But the bird that is locked inside the cage can only see within his cage and he can see the space just outside his cage. So his field of vision is not that much. It is less than that of the free bird. And bars of rage means the bird is angry because it is imprisoned. So it is said that bars of rage. Rage means anger. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied so that he does not fly away from the cave. And because his feet are tied and his wings are also clipped, all he can do is use his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for escape, and his tune is heard on the distant hill. So here the caged bird quivers while singing of the things unknown. The caged bird has always been inside the cage, so his knowledge is limited. So it fearful trill means afraid. It is afraid because it is singing of the things unknown. There are many things that the caged bird does not know, but it still wants to know. And then again, because they are unknown things, the caged bird is afraid. Here, the things unknown, because the bird is imprisoned. So, what does he not know? The thing that he does not know is freedom, because all his life he was being imprisoned. So he is a bit afraid of the freedom, but he also longs for freedom, meaning that he also wants freedom. The poet then says that the song of the bird can be heard on a distant hill. Distant hill here refers to a faraway place. So distant hill. Or the caged bird sings of freedom. The songs of the caged bird can be heard on a faraway place. Back to the fourth stanza. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade wind soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. Our free bird, while riding on one breeze, now thinks of another breeze. Meanwhile, the caged bird does not have a single breeze to ride on. Why? Because it is trapped inside the cage. Here, the free bird is thinking of another breeze, meaning that it was flying on one wind current, now it is thinking of flying on another. And the wind that the bird rides on is going through the sighing trees. The trade winds, meaning the wind currents, they are blowing through the sighing trees. Then fat worms are waiting to be consumed by our free bird on a dawn bright lawn, and he names the sky his own, meaning that he flies through the sky as if the whole sky belongs to him, because there are no other birds to compete with him. So he flies like the sky belongs to him. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. Our caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. So, what is the grave of dreams? The cage that is uh, imprisoning the bird. It is the grave of dreams. We bury dead people in graves. So, similarly, the dreams of the caged bird, it was to fly independently, live a free life. So, those dreams are dead because it is imprisoned in the cage. So, the cage here is called the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream, meaning that the song of the cage bird is like a nightmare. It's like someone having a nightmare. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. Then we are back to the same lines that was repeated earlier, that the wings of the bird are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The last stanza is again, it is a repetition of the third stanza. So the meaning is same, that the cage bird sings with a fearful trill, that it sings of the things unknown, and it is afraid of it, but it still longs for that. And here the things unknown refers to freedom, like I said earlier. And the song of the free bird is heard on a distant hill, meaning it is heard on a faraway place. There are several important themes that are highlighted throughout the poem. The first one of them is freedom versus enslavement. The theme of freedom versus enslavement, it is seen throughout the poem. Freedom is symbolized, it is shown through the unrestricted movement of the free bird, and enslavement is symbolized by the cage bird, whose wings are clipped and feet are tied. This poem begins with the free bird leaping and floating freely in the sky that he claims as his own. The freedom of the bird in the natural habitat is shown, that is, the free sky that the bird flies in. The free bird's sense of freedom is expressed in the lines: dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. The freedom of the bird, that is, the unrestricted movement of the bird, is explained in these lines. The free bird is untroubled, that is, he does not have any troubles or worries to think about. And the poet, with the help of colorful images, shows us how happy the bird is. The orange color, the orange sun rays in that line, the orange color is associated with glow and happiness. On the other hand, we have a cage bird whose enslavement is represented through his wings that are clipped. The caged bird cannot fly freely in the sky. His vision of freedom is not there. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage and can seldom see through his bars of rage. Like I said, he does not see much beyond the uh, bars of the cage. That is, his vision is limited. The bird is imprisoned and thus is filled with rage. He is so furious, but he is also helpless at the same time. All he can do is open his throat and sing. The free bird thinks of another breeze. That is, he selfishly wishes for more freedom for himself, whereas our caged bird does not even have a little bit of freedom. It is trapped inside the cage. The things unknown here refers to freedom, like I said, and the cage has also become a grave of dreams. That also I explained. Even though the caged bird lives a harsh life, it continues to persevere, and is unwilling to surrender to its opponents. That is the people who have imprisoned the bird. The bird still longs for freedom, and this song ends on a positive note that maybe somewhere the helpless cries of the caged bird can be heard over the horizon. Another such theme is racism and slavery. The poem articulates the poet's pent up emotions against racial discrimination and slavery in America that she had personally experienced. But she never mentions it directly. The free bird represents the white race and their domination, whereas the caged bird becomes a metaphor for African Americans and their confinement. The poet expresses her agonies and grievances through the restricted flight of the caged bird. The caged bird thus represents the African American race. The ensnared caged bird is struggling to carve a peaceful environment for himself in the racist society. Until 1965, there was a system of racial segregation known as Jim Crow. In the southern United States, African Americans lived in poverty. They were denied the right to vote, to organize a meeting, or to gather together. Owing to the color of their skin, they were not allowed to use the same transport, public toilets, or to study in the same schools as the whites. The caged bird thus represents this community that was prevented from social, religious, and cultural freedom on account of the color of their skin. The caged bird could not fly anywhere at his own will and choice. Then, the third theme that we have here is voice against oppression. The caged bird in the poem is in a state of physical pain and mental agony, a reference to the clipped wings, tired feet, restricted movement, depict the physical pain that the caged bird had to endure. The loss of freedom resulted in the mental agony for the caged bird. However harsh and painful aspects of the caged bird's existence, that is, the caged bird was imprisoned in a cage, it was not allowed to fly freely. So these was all kind of abuse that was done to the caged bird. But this never took away its dignity. He knew that he had strength, and he used it to show rebellion, to resist it by using his voice to sing. Singing by the caged bird is a symbol of rebellion against oppression. The struggle of the caged bird is parallel to the African American struggle for freedom and equality. African Americans wrote, sang, danced, and cried out for freedom, though initially they were heard as a distant voice. Yet, this did not stop them from raising their voice against discrimination faced by them due to their color of the skin until they were given equal right as the whites. So, here in the poem, it is said that the tune of the caged bird is heard on the distant hill. Here, the poet gives us hope that his cries of help are heard somewhere, even if very far, but but it is surely heard on a faraway place, and maybe one day the bird will get help and it will get freedom.